I live in what is arguably one of the most corrupt states in the country, and that is the good old state of Pennsylvania. I also live in a county that was one of the wealthiest counties at one point. We're not in the top 10 anymore, but we were. We also have one of the highest concentrations per capita of billionaires, I believe. Don't quote me on that. But the only reason I know that is because I've serviced a lot of billionaires, okay? I grew up in an area where there was a lot of wealth, and it was subtle wealth. It's old money. It's not new money. It's not flashy. You can't see it. But I also live in an area where, like, Joe Biden, yeah, I see Joe Biden. I've shopped at the grocery store Joe Biden shops at, okay? And I bring this up because I want to bring to people's attention that at this point in our country, because it's almost election time, and I'm hearing a lot of people talking about voting. It's important to go vote, absolutely. But if you are somebody that thinks you can just show up to the polls on election day and you've done your civil duty to continue to keep being a participant in this country, it's not enough anymore. This country is so corrupt on all levels. Local government, state government, and federal government. So much fucking corruption. And if you are not actively fighting this corruption via pressing the politicians that you do vote for to start passing legislation to help the people, because we are at the point where we're paying socialist percentages in taxes and getting zero of the benefits, okay? That is why we're on this hamster wheel. That is why we see one of the largest wealth inequalities ever seen probably in human history at this point. And in my good old state of Pennsylvania, our water supply is so contaminated at this point that the government issued a warning to not drink it. Okay, you can't drink your well water or the city water. So if you're paying for water in cities like Pittsburgh or Philadelphia, you should be fucking pissed. You should be calling your government officials almost every day to fix the water problem in our country. Because remember when that catastrophic train crash happened, right? Norfolk Southern? Yeah, they should be the ones paying for every PA resident right now, every Ohio resident right now, to have top-of-the-line water filtration systems. But they're not. They're not. They're putting that on you. And they're also not even making sure every resident is taken care of. So, like, you could be drinking water that's going to absolutely cause cancer for you. And don't get me started on DuPont. DuPont's been stationed right in my backyard for decades and have been killing people for decades and have zero accountability for it. Okay, so these are the ways in which big business, large, people with a ton of money are ruining the lives of average, everyday, hardworking Americans. And I know it's a big ask to say that you can't just show up on election day and just, you fill in your bubble of who you want to vote, that you have to actually work at calling and emailing and showing up. But there are organizations that are trying to make it easier. There are people actively trying to figure out how to organize and fight this corruption. So if you're in the state of Pennsylvania, please go follow NPA Corruption on TikTok and on Instagram. And they have a website. They're even doing a march next weekend from Lancaster to Harrisburg, which is our state capital, by the way, to try and get dark money out of PA politics. And so for everybody that always agrees with the videos of feeling tired and feeling frustrated and feeling like your dollar gets you nowhere and that you're constantly just spinning your wheels, like, you have to understand that there's work to do to get the corruption out of our governments on all levels. And please, please equip yourself with the education of how our government really works. Because if you don't understand how our government works, which, by the way, I wouldn't know how our government works if I didn't have a grandfather that really drilled how important it is to understand U.S. history and how important it is to understand history in general, and then also took a liking to learning government. So I took AP US Gov in high school, and I took a few poli-sci classes in college, and again, privileged to have had higher education and had an opportunity to educate myself in a more formal setting. But it's not to say that you can't take time in your day-to-day. Again, if you're sitting aimlessly scrolling, please maybe take 15 minutes to educate yourself on, again, how everything works. And if you want me to do a series to kind of break down like US government for dummies, I'm happy to do so, because like I said, I care a lot about this country. I love being an American, but I am tired of the corruption. Okay, I'm tired of watching my fellow hardworking Americans get taken advantage of. I'm tired of my hardworking fellow Americans being killed and having their lives taken with no repercussions of the kind of businesses or organizations that are doing the killing. As far, thank you so much for caring, and thank you so much for listening. And like I said, if you want me to do more content and do a series talking about kind of how we got to where we are, if you want me to do a series talking about U.S. history and our U.S. government and how local, state, and federal governments work, I'm happy to do so, because again, I think knowledge is power. So that's the first step. And then again, once you have that knowledge, then you can apply it and we can start to fight. And it can be nonviolent. Okay, we can work smart. not hard, right? That's the goal. That's the aim. But thank you so much for listening, and I hope